The James Show Podcast.
Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, live from the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. And yes, I'm getting fat out here. You can come by and watch me eat random food and watch getting fatter. Every time I do a remote, I gain like 3 pounds out here. But our top story of the day, Anthony Davis, gone. It's a cold business. Absolute cold business. Anthony Davis, I guess you could say he was the best player on the team until a few hours ago. I mean, Cooper Flagg maybe, Kyrie Irving maybe. But the whole point of the reason why the Anthony Davis trade is so big is because we are still emotionally damaged from the Luka trade that happened right at a year ago. What was it, like February 1st last year, January 31st last year? We traded our best player for the guy who was supposed to be the replacing him as the best player, Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis, what is he, like 33 now? Anthony Davis at 22 would probably have been our best player, but he's hurt a lot. He's been here for a calendar year. He only played in 29 games. So let's just cut bait, move on. Now, why do you care if you're not a basketball fan? I don't know. I don't know how I can talk you into that, other than the fact that so much of what the Mavericks does outside of the basketball court is kind of impactful. Are they going to be the reason we tear down our paid-off City Hall that is built or architected by a internationally renowned architect, IMP or whatever? I don't know architects. I'm not going to pretend like I know architects, but that's a cool building. And is it going to be because of our basketball team that we knocked that down? Is the basketball team going to move up to where Valley View Mall was? That seems like a good location, a big open spot that's accessible by a bunch of highways crossing. You know, you got the tollway there, you got 75 there, you got LBJ in the front. That seems like it might be a pretty good place. But also, like, I still question, like, why doesn't Fort Worth have a professional sports team? There's 4 in this market. Shouldn't one of them be here? Or, I mean, look, we could even roll in soccer on that one. You don't even have the soccer team over here? Because we're going to be back here in Fort Worth tomorrow, and then I'm coming back in 2 weeks after that for the next Parker Pour. Oh, yeah, give it up. We'll be back at Whiskey and Rye in the Omni Fort Worth Hotel. And there's no reason why in 10 years this isn't going to be DFW. This is going to be FWD. Have you seen, like, the population growth trends? Fort Worth, it could pass Dallas in the next 10 years. What does that mean? So now how do you talk the world into not seeing this in advance and saying, hey, Mavericks, why don't you just come over here? But no, if you're not a basketball fan and you're sort of sports agnostic, I know you people out there, stick to the issues, no one cares about sports. I don't know if I can talk you into caring about this, but for about the 57% of us that do care about sports, this is a pretty huge deal. I don't watch a whole lot of Mavericks basketball. I don't watch a whole lot of basketball, period. I'm a what we call a fair weather fan. When it's playoff times, if we're doing good and everybody's saying nice things about the team, I'll definitely start watching then. But no, this is a big deal. And the fact that now this also means Cooper Flagg's the guy. Cooper Flagg's the guy going forward. We're going to be rebuilding. We're not going to make the playoffs. We're not even trying to make the playoffs. Probably not making the playoffs next year. We're getting a whole bunch of draft picks for this. So what we're doing is just kind of clearing the deck, clearing some cap space, getting rid of some ugly contracts. And really, you don't have to worry about Mavericks basketball that much for the rest of the year, probably even next year. But you're probably going to have to start paying attention in a couple years. If we can keep Cooper Flagg and he keeps his development going the way it has this first year, we'll actually be talking about basketball a lot more in the future, and I hope that doesn't bother you too much. The other big story locally that just, I don't know, for some reason this has hit me emotionally, this bank robbery situation. You hear about that? Balk Springs. A couple guys go get one of the armored car drivers, shoot him. And I was just thinking, basketball can be a stressful job. You have a bunch of people who are booing at you. There's millions of dollars on the line. You could be traded at any second and just, okay, now you have to pick up and move your family to Dallas 1 year later. Okay, now you have to pick up and move your family to D.C. of all places. My job's like that. I could be fired tomorrow. I could just say the N-word or say something that's offensive to the wrong people, and then all of a sudden I have to pick up and I have to move my family somewhere tomorrow. But it's a more stressful job? Being an armored truck driver. I mean, always have your head on a swivel is something funny we like to say, when you're playing football or you're criticizing the Clintons. But, I mean, that literally is an always have your head on a swivel type of job. You can never relax, and that's the most stressful part about it is you can never relax. You were always looking over your shoulder. You always have to be suspicious of everyone that approaches you, everyone that pulls up next to you at a red light, everyone that follows you too close. Are you about to get boxed in? Are you about to get outgunned? Are you going to be safe the next time you have to open this door at some point? You're going to expose yourself to the world. Is this the day that there's going to be a couple of monsters waiting on you? And then who are these monsters? You're willing to kill a guy for, what, a few $1,000s? You know, if you just go get a job, you can have a few $1,000s in a couple months. It's not going to all roll in. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fast as robbing and murdering a guy. But it's just amazing how little some people think of life that they're willing to kill another human being just for a little bit of money. I don't know why that struck me so much. I just feel sorry for armored truck drivers now, don't you? Like there's thousands of them. Someone has to pick up the money at the bank. Someone has to pick up the money at all the ATMs. Someone has to pick up the money at all the little branches that you drive through. Well, there's thousands of them right now, and they're shook to the core right now. They're listening to this while they're driving down. Look, think about it like this. There are guys who are driving armored trucks right now that are listening to WBAP. They're listening to the James Show, and they've already heard about this story, and they were trying to forget it, and I brought it back up. And dude, they have cortisol pumping. They probably have adrenaline pumping. They're probably going to have to bang about 6-7 shots of whiskey before they can calm down enough to go to sleep tonight. So that sucks, you know? Like, you never know when you're sitting behind one of these people when you're in line at Walmart. What if they're just having a terrible day? What if their wife just called them, said they want a divorce? Then they heard this guy that they used to work with at the other armored company just got killed in Balk Springs by some punks who wanted a few grand. Man, some people are really going through the pressure cooker today. So if you're not, maybe we should be a little more appreciative. Kind of puts this Anthony Davis news in perspective as well. There's going to be some people losing their minds over this. There's going to be some people who get real excited about this. Hey, you know, I hope this helps you have a good day and stuff, but it's not really what's important in the long run, is it? I know we don't talk about sports much on the James Show, so it must be a big deal. So to give me an assist is the great Donovan Lewis from the Invasion on the Ticket. And Donovan, trading Anthony Davis isn't even about Anthony Davis. It's really about Luka, I feel like.
How do you say? Why do you think that?
Well, because for all of us, Anthony Davis became the avatar for what we lost in the Luka trade, and that was just a year ago. And so it's just been a calendar year plus 4 days. And so it feels like, you know, the whole Luka thing is now behind us, and we're just looking forward on a new horizon. Clearly, this isn't, the Anthony Davis isn't going to be a part of the Mavericks' future. We're not going to build around him. Right. I don't know if this is going to – Cooper Flagg's the guy going forward, but we've just scrapped this whole thing. Nico Harrison's gone. Anthony Davis is gone. Luka's not coming back. And so this is kind of like the full clean breakup.
Yeah, the therapy session. No, I get that. And I think a lot of people had the mindset of, hey, I won't root for the Mavericks again until Nico and Anthony Davis are gone because they remind you of losing Luka. And now that happened, then maybe they'll come back. But, man, the one thing you don't even have to think about is Cooper Flagg being that guy because he is that guy. He's proven it to us here in his rookie year as he just turns 19 that you can build around him and you can see the process of the Mavericks starting to try and build a team around their 1-1. Man, they've got to be thanking their lucky stars that they lucked up and got the number 1 pick overall. Because think where this team would be if they would have picked 11th or 12th in the draft like they were supposed to, and they wind up getting the 1-1 and getting the – I was always hesitant to call him a generational talent, but 50 games into the season, you can tell that he has something special. And while we kind of throw around generational a lot these days – if he's not generational, he's as close as it gets. He is really, really good to be this young. So they decided we got to have some flexibility. We got to make sure we get this roster built around Cooper Flagg like they built the roster around Luka when he was here.
Well, I think when we look back on this, we will not forget about this. And in 5, 10, 15 years, people will remember the Luka trade like they remember the new Coke debacle in the mid-'80s. We're like, we'll just change the formula. Sure. No one will care. And they really underestimated the emotional attachment that the fan base had to the previous formula, and they really learned the hard way.
Absolutely. They learned the hard way, and they let go of a guy that everyone loved. And Luka is just on a podcast with Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady. I haven't seen the whole thing, but there are clips coming out. And he's twisting a knife in even further, saying, yeah, I wanted to be here for my whole career. I love Dallas. I didn't want to leave. It still hurts. And he's kind of letting everyone know and kind of reliving the nightmare of what happened a year ago. So it's never going to go away for a lot of people, a lot of the fan base. But this is the Dallas Mavericks front office trying to say, all right, we messed up. We got to erase it and start over. And while this trade won't give you back the players that you'll recognize on the court, it does give you some flexibility with the roster and some financial flexibility to build that team around Cooper Flagg. So it's going to be a slow burn, but at least it's starting to happen with the trade of Anthony Davis. And you traded away a guy, and I'm sorry, not even a guy, because Dante Exum and Jaden Hardy and D'Angelo Russell were also in the deal. You traded away 4 guys who just basically don't play. AD because he's hurt, and the other 3 because they are not in the rotation. So you got something back for guys who weren't going to be a part of your future. They aren't even a part of your present. So at least that's a start. So that's how you got to look at it on the optimistic side if you're a Maverick fan.
All right, we're talking with Donovan Lewis from the World's Most Dangerous Midday Show. Why would the Wizards even want Anthony Davis, Donovan?
I can see their thought because Washington basketball has been bad for a long time. So they made the trade earlier this year for Trae Young, who Luka was traded for in the 2018 draft, and now they get Anthony Davis. So now you have 2 names that you can try and sell to your fan base. I know Anthony Davis is hurt a lot, but at least they have the name power to try to get butts in seats. And they're going to try and see if they can build a roster around those guys while kind of appeasing their fan base for saying, we've been bad for so long, we got to have something to grab hold to. And now you can see a little bit of a tiny light at the end of the tunnel. We just don't know if it's going to work or not. And they don't know. They're just taking a chance.
All right, so who are these guys we got in return? I don't know any of them. Did we just get a handful of spares?
Marvin Bagley Jr., as a matter of fact, was the pick before Luka in the 2018 draft.
Wait, he went
to
the third?
Sacramento. Marvin Bagley the third, yes.
Okay.
Chris Middleton is a guy that played in Milwaukee. He's a veteran. He won a championship when Giannis and Milwaukee won their title in 2021. But he had a couple of years where he was hurt a ton. And he's just a guy that you got because his salary goes off of the books next year. So $33.3 million he's making. You don't have to pay that out the next year instead of trying to sign Anthony Davis to an extension or paying him $60 million. $33.3 million go away. Now, I will admit to you, the other 2 guys, I am not very familiar with their game at all. I'm going to have to look those guys up and see what they bring. But there's only one guy that signed beyond this year. So they got expiring contracts and a little financial flexibility to try to build a team around. And I guarantee you that's what they wanted to accomplish with the trade of Anthony Davis.
All right, so are we in rebuilding mode, a.k.a. are we going to stink for the rest of the year and probably next year too?
Well, those guys that were traded weren't doing anything for you anyway. So it's going to be probably the exact same thing you're getting. You're going to see the guys that are in the rotation that are still, unless they make another move or 2 to say, all right, if they trade Daniel Gafford or they trade Klay Thompson, then you probably will start to say, all right, we may be bad for the rest of the year so we can build for the next 2 or 3 years. I wouldn't expect a lot of difference next year, but I think in the years to come, you see that the core is here. And your foundation is strong with Cooper Flagg, so that's the start.
So generally speaking, thumbs up with this trade?
Yes, I would say thumbs up. To get something for Anthony Davis, for a guy that played 29 games in a full year here in Dallas, and seemingly getting more of a haul than you got for Luka, is definitely a plus for Dallas when it comes to this trade.
Well, man, Anthony Davis was so good when he was healthy. He was so good in college. We just never got to see it. And he really seems like a nice guy, too, though. It's just we didn't have him for very long, I guess. Donovan Lewis, thanks for all the insight.
He handled it with such professionalism, too. He was a really cool dude. He didn't – yeah. I thought he handled himself very professionally.
Well, and he had a lot of excuse to have an attitude, and he didn't. So,
no doubt.
Nice guy. Just a tough business there, isn't it? Donovan Lewis, appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
You've heard about the curious association between Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein. Melinda Gates did an interview yesterday. Just, you feel sorry for the woman, right? Listen to the awkward pauses, the look on her face. Was that where you're kind of worried, but you're in public, so you're faking a smile, but it's not really working out? So you can tell, like, even though the corners of her mouth are turned up in a smile, that this is real agonizing for her to even go through. And listen to the way the lady did a great job phrasing this question as well. Is this the most painful, awkward thing you could possibly end up doing if you marry somebody? Like, what's the worst case scenario? Best case scenario, you get happily married, y'all get along great, and you live happily ever after. Then there's different things that could happen. Like, he could cheat on you. He could be abusive. He could be he get addicted to cocaine and you lose all your money in your house. Or, I think this might be the worst thing. I think I would rather my spouse kill me than be all rolled up in the Jeffrey Epstein files and I got to run around the rest of my life doing interviews like this. Oh, my God. Here it is. Melinda Gates. Poor, poor lady.
The emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection, and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to the details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. That's the truth, right? And it's kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life.
How do you feel about that? Because a lot of people are skeptical in the comments section saying she had to have known about it if she divorced him over it. And then she doesn't turn him in for it. So is she an accomplice, or is she really morally pure? Does she have a right to even have an opinion on something like this? And a lot of other people pointed out something that you might have noticed in there too, is that she didn't actually admit that he did anything wrong. She didn't actually admit that she knew. She didn't actually say anything that could be legally incriminating. And so maybe the pauses there weren't because she was trying to contain her emotions or she was having a visceral human empathy, but maybe she was calculating, what can I say with that won't incriminate me? Because she's in a terrible spot. And, you kind of feel for her. If she was in on it, then you would think, well, why would she break up with him? If she was down, like if that was something that she was into too, maybe, she could be Bill's Ghislaine Maxwell. But if she's not into it, she didn't turn him in. She still hasn't turned him in. She has to have seen evidence. You would think, for her to know that she has to get out of the marriage, right? Isn't there a bit of a catch-22 here that you're picking up too? So this is why you had to leave him. What is why you had to leave him? Because you knew he was doing nasty things with underage girls on Epstein Island? Or because he had done this elsewhere? Because this was a regular habit? Or, I don't know, maybe you just seen his browser history on the studio PC at the house. So if she knows but she doesn't turn them in, is she complicit in their laws against that? Shouldn't you be required to turn these people in? She didn't give back the money, did she? God, that's awful. I don't even know what to think about that. I can't even imagine. I mean, imagine if your spouse did that to you. Imagine if your spouse was rolled up in the Epstein file. Hell, your spouse might be the only one who's not rolled up in the Epstein file. I mean, besides me, Garrett's probably in there.
The James Show Podcast.